Meteorologist Chesley McNeil holding it down in the Weather Impact Center, bringing us that track.
Yeah, and it's likely we won't see the impact, or we won't see any freezing rain around here until we get toward the latter afternoon and into the evening hours. That's where we'll start to see some of those impacts here, at least in the metro area. It'll start in the northern counties first and then make its way down toward the metro area. Our temperatures starting off in the 40s, but will be falling as we head through the day. So that's what we'll be watching for. So we're saying Saturday evening into Sunday, in fact, into Monday is when we'll have these impacts around our area. And toward the end of it all is really you really start to see some of those impacts, especially on Sunday, because of the freezing rain around through the overnight tonight. That's going to start to weigh down those power lines and those trees. They'll start to snap as well. So those are our two concerns right there. Of course, the power outages and also slick roads. They'll get worse as we head through the morning on Sunday into Sunday afternoon, especially with that cold air wrapping around this particular system and coming back in. Whatever is wet on the roadways will begin to freeze. Even some of our areas just to the south of the city, when we've been focused really on the freezing rain from Atlanta up here toward the northeast. And so that's our focus is for the onset. And then once things are done, you're talking about area wide, really, we'll be looking at that. We had some precipitation earlier on in the form of snow up to the far north, especially in the higher elevations of the North Georgia mountains. Right now, this is what's taking place. You got the clouds in place. Right? You got a little bit of precipitation up here to the north. A lot of this just not reaching the ground. Coming back now over into our extreme northwestern counties. So Dade, Walker County, maybe a little bit of mixing taking place right now. We had some snow earlier on. A few raindrops over toward Higdon and western portions of Fanning and Gilmer County. And then you can see over here toward southern White County, over toward Mossy Creek, and then down into northern parts of Hall County, over toward Gainesville. You may be experiencing a drop or two. That's about it. If you were planning to get out and go out, maybe get out for something real quick and come back in, then that's what you may experience over here toward Banks County, over toward Homer, down toward Commerce, even into northern parts of Gwinnett County, Sugar Hill, just a few raindrops around. And I do suspect that any precipitation here in the metro area may start off as a little bit of wet weather and then starts to change over. You can see up into Blue Ridge where we had some rain. The road's still a little bit dark, but starting to dry up a little bit now that the rain has begun to subside. So it is drying up a little bit. We have a little bit of a breeze out there. Those winds will start to pick up later on tonight and into tomorrow. Expecting through the day on Sunday for those winds to be ripping around. Gusts could be as high as 30 miles per hour at times. That's going to add to the problems, especially when we talk about power outages. Ice storm warning. You can see it covers much of our area. Georgia's Rome down through Atlanta over toward Athens and down toward Augusta is where we're expecting to see significant amounts of ice accumulation. What is significant amounts? Well, any amount is treacherous. But when you start to talk about a quarter of an inch and higher, that's when you start to get into the danger zone, especially when you talk about a half inch and higher, and we're expecting to see that up here to the far northwest, okay? We could be seeing really significant amounts if we get up to an inch, and there could be some isolated pockets that get up to an inch of ice, again, especially up here in the northeastern corridor of our state. You notice the blue counties down here is where we have our winter weather advisories, expecting a little bit of an icing there. Even a tenth of an inch can do some damage or cause some problems for us. You look at our potential, and right there, where we're talking about Murrayville up toward Tiger, this is over even into South Carolina, over to Andrews, South Carolina, where you can see 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. Just south of that, anywhere from about a quarter of an inch to a half an inch possible in these areas, and that's still, again, significant damage for the area as far as the roadways and trees being toppled over on the roads, not to mention, again, those power lines. And then once you get south of Atlanta, south of Social Circle, you're talking about traces around. If you live in these particular areas, say, for example, down toward Peachtree City, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm out of it and I'll be fine, or it's all rain. There will be some slick spots for you as well, especially as that colder air begins to move in later on after the system is over. So if you look at this, it kind of shows us what we can expect with the amount of ice that could be around. So if we're talking about just a tenth of an inch, you're talking about a light glaze on the roadways and sidewalks, makes it difficult to travel, okay? You're looking at also isolated power outages. Once we get to a quarter of an inch, which is what we expected to be widespread, now we're talking about numerous power outages. We're talking about limbs sagging and snapping or breaking, trees maybe toppling over because of the winds with that ice that's going to be on it. And then when you get up to about a half an inch or better, you're really talking about long-term power outages, widespread, severe damage that's going to be on our trees, and also dangerous travel, if not impossible to travel. Okay, and then we're talking about that system over us. This is a widespread system, as you can see, extending from West Texas all the way up into Boston is where we're going to see these impacts. So making travel very difficult. Hopefully you're not flying out to any of these areas. Hopefully you're where you're going to be at least through about Tuesday, where the system can get in and get out road work can be done, power work can be done. We're looking at this system making its way further off to the north. Now, interestingly enough, and Nicole has been talking about this really all morning long, this warm air that's going to be moving in to our forecast area. Here we are by 10 o'clock tonight. You can see where much of North Georgia, under that pink area there, where we're looking at that ice in our forecast area. And then with this warm nose coming in, it's going to be the question of how quickly that's going to take place. This wedge that's over us, that easterly flow coming in with high pressure up here to the north, will keep us on the frozen side, right? And as that area of low pressure starts to head to the north, we still will be in that easterly flow. So how long will this wedge hold on before that warmer air gets in here? That could mean a prolonged period where we see that ice adding to the totals, all right? Now, if that warm air gets in here and it starts to change over to rain, that would be a better scenario for us, and we'd like to see that. But along that line will be some very heavy rain, possibly even some thunderstorms, especially south of the city, where there could be a brief spin up, certainly, before that rain begins to get out. Now, once it starts to move over toward the east, we're talking about the wraparound flow and that northerly flow coming in with those stronger winds and also the colder air. And so whatever falls on the ground now that's wet, of course, will begin to refreeze. With our temperatures on Monday, as Nicole will tell us, only getting up to around freezing. If they get that high, we'll be seeing a lot of this freezing over, and then maybe a brief thaw, and then it freezes over again because our temperatures through the first half of the week will stay on the cold side. Here to walk us through what we can expect here locally is Nicole.
Thanks, Chesley. As far as the timing goes throughout the next 24 hours, a lot of the ice accumulation won't actually start to take place until tonight and into tomorrow morning. So during the day today, we're still watching for that potential for some wintry mix to develop. There have been some locations in far north Georgia where there's already a light glaze of ice on car windshields, but so far ground temperatures are still too warm to really sustain anything. As we go throughout this afternoon, temperatures will start to drop, and that could allow for any untreated roads to turn slick, especially those bridges and overpasses in far north Georgia as those temperatures start to decline. By later this afternoon and tonight, that's when we'll start to see really not only more widespread showers, but a more widespread changeover from anything falling as rainfall to a freezing rain and sleet mix, maybe even a few snowflakes mixed in there as well. Temperatures will drop down into the 20s late tonight and into tomorrow morning, and that's when we'll start to see more widespread impacts of the ice. So roads will start to turn slick and icy. We could also see areas where the tree limbs start breaking, where power lines start breaking, and we'll be watching for that threat for power outages that really goes up later tonight and into tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, temperatures, we'll be watching those very closely. As Chesley was mentioning, we'll be watching for that potential for a little bit of warming into Sunday. Not a big dramatic warm up, but just enough to get us up just barely above freezing and retransition us back from the freezing rain and the sleet back to just rainfall. Here's how it plays out hour by hour on our forecast track. So through the next few hours, the bulk of North Georgia is either at or above freezing. Also keep in mind that just because the surface temperature, the air temperature is close to freezing, it's going to take a little bit while longer for roads and the ground to reach the freezing point. So there may be a little bit of a period of a transition where actual air temperatures are down below freezing, but the ground is not quite frozen just yet. A few isolated showers possible throughout the day today, but a lot of what we see is going to be very light, and it should be pretty hit and miss. Later this afternoon, we'll get that influx of moisture coming in from the southwest while we get the cold air wedge building in from the northeast. So the most widespread ice accumulation will take place tonight and into tomorrow morning. As that warmer air tries to wedge its way in by tomorrow, some spots will warm up to above freezing, Atlanta metro included, which could allow for showers and even thunderstorms into tomorrow afternoon. But some spots up towards the northeast of the city will continue to accumulate ice even into Sunday afternoon. And anything that remains on the ground will refreeze on Sunday night and Monday morning as temperatures drop down into the teens and the 20s.